And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at Timeline Challenge. Now, I've reviewed many of the different timeline games in the past. There's all kinds of timeline games, and those are essentially historical style games where you take different events from history and try to put them in a line. This is obviously much bigger than those games. They were small little tins that came like this with a small deck of cards inside each one. They all work together, and I was very excited to hear that this bigger one was able to take those smaller ones and plug them into this game. Still pretty big. Let's see if it's worth the size increase. This is the board on which timeline happens. The middle here is kind of the track. Each player gets a piece showing a different traveling thing from history. You put them on the starting spot. You can split up into teams if you want to. And when each turn of the game, you're going to do a challenge. And there's different challenges here. The challenge is determined by whoever's piece is the farthest ahead. So if your piece is on the yellow, for example, you'll do the yellow challenge. At the beginning of the game, you'll do the green challenge. And as you get points, you'll be moving here. When you cross this line, when someone crosses this line, there's a challenge between the last two players, and when you cross this line, there is another challenge. So only when the first person crosses those lines. So let's take a look at each of the challenges. Each player and or team is also going to get a board here, which has sliders where you can pick different numbers on those. Now, each challenge is using a card here. There's the creation of the driver's license. On the other side of this is a date, and so there's a bunch of these cards that come with the game, and you can use cards that come with the other timeline games also. Now, when you place these cards in the green challenge, you're going to put 4 of them out here. So I have the creation of the driver's license, the creation of the Academy Awards, the invention of the jukebox, and the invention of dominoes. Now, for each of these, I'm going to try and figure out what period of history it happened in. So if I pick 0, for example, I think it happened between or before minus 500. If I pick 1, I think it happened after negative 500 or 500 BC to 850 AD, and so on and so forth, all the way to the top. If I pick 9, I think it happened after 1970 up to today's modern date. So when I pick each of these, I'm going to take this wheel that each player has. I have one that corresponds, and you'll notice it has the shapes on here that corresponds with each of the shapes. So the creation of the driver's license, I'm going to assume that happened in the almost right away. So I'm going to pick 7. I think that it happened somewhere in that time frame. The creation of the Academy Awards, I'm going to pick the same time frame for that. The invention of the jukebox, it shows like a really old one on there. Are they trying to trick me here? I'll go early on that one. I'll say 4 for that one. And then the invention of dominoes, I don't know when dominoes were invented. I'll say 1300. Who knows? So I pick my 4 numbers here, 7742, and I turn over the first one, the creation of the driver's license. 1880, I said 7, 1888, I said 7, which means it's between 1880 and 1930, so I get a point for that one. Hooray! The creation of the Academy Awards, 1929. I said 7 for that one also. That meant it was between 1880 and 1930. Whew, got that by 1 year. The invention of the jukebox was 1889. Well, I really got that one wrong. And so you keep doing this, right or wrong, and then you're going to move your piece a space for each one, right or wrong. Now, the yellow trial, you're simply going to put a card there. Like, for example, the creation of the driver's license. Let's say I was guessing on that one, and I guessed on that one 1918. Okay? So that would be the date that I'm guessing. I then look here, 1918. I look at the thing here, 1888. I match the 1 and I match the 8. So I get 2 points. So for each digit you match. You also have a plus here and a minus for AD or BC. If you get that wrong, you don't get any points at all. But usually you'll get that one right. So for each digit you match, you'll get 1 point. Over here, on the red challenge, it's similar to the green trial, but you have to guess what era this happened in. So let's say I think this happened in 1920. So I'm going to pick 7 because that's the number of the thing that I think it is. And so I'm going to pick another 7, and I'll pick another 7. And I'll say, well, just in case it happened earlier, I will also pick a 6. So we turn it over, and it happens in 1888, which is 7. So I get 3 points for picking 7 3 times, and I get no point for 6. So you can see you could pick a spread of errors that you think it happened in, or if you're really confident, you could pick 1, and the more points you'll get. Down here, you have 4 things, just like before, and then you simply have to put them in order. And you have to say which one happened first, which one happened second, which one happened third, and you simply will put 1, 2, 3, or 4 in each of these slots. And then, once we turn them over and reveal them, then you'll put the markers on them so everyone can see, and you get points for each one that you match correctly. Finally, we have up here, you put 2 cards, and everyone's going to, again, use the numbers to try to figure out the difference in years between these 2 cards. If whoever is the closest to the number, let's say there's 30 years in between them, or maybe there's 782 years in between them, whoever is the closest is going to get points. And remember, I said there's also challenges between the last person and the last 2 people when you cross these lines. And essentially, for the first one, you'll have some cards, and you basically put a card out. You play basically the regular timeline game, where you put a card out in a row, and the first card is here. Then the second card, I have to decide whether it comes before or after. And then the third card, I have to decide where it's going to go into that row. And the first person to make a mistake loses. The other person will get to move forward on the track. You'll continue to do this until one person gets to the end. That person is the winner of the game. I have to say, I really like this. Now, I'm going to give it even more bonus points if you already have Timeline, or any of the versions of Timeline, because you can put all those cards in here. And this, that's just great. I can't wait. First of all, this is a great way to store all those. I didn't like the tins. I put them in a cardboard box, and it was kind of, how do I keep them all together? This is a great way to do that. And even though the insert doesn't hold all the expansions, because I have them all, it holds many of them, and you could also just get rid of the insert, and then they all fit in the box easily. Now, let's say you never had Timeline before. This is still worth it, in my opinion. You get a pile of cards, and you might say, well, that seems like that would get repetitive after a while. First of all, it doesn't. You don't use that many cards in the game. Secondly, you will be surprised at how much you forget, and if you do remember, then bingo, the game is teaching you something. Very useful. This is the most fun anyone ever has with dates. And I really like the different cards. I like putting them in order, trying to figure out what period they're in, betting what period they're in, trying to find the exact date, finding the difference between 2. There's just the different variations here. It's basically saying, here's your game of Timeline, which I already enjoyed and liked, and 6 more ways to play it. And I really enjoy that. There's all those different ways to play. I don't know how much I'm keen on maybe the last 2 players have a face-off and one of them gets to move forward. I guess that's to make someone feel better. I don't know. But and there still is going to be someone who's good at dates will probably beat someone who's not. But you just need to kind of be close in this game. Well, I think that happened in the 1700s. And sometimes some of the dates will really surprise you. And you'll learn a lot from this game, I think. Now, education does not always equal fun. In Timeline, I've always said that it does. And I'm always surprised that these Timeline people aren't at educational conferences just telling everyone about this game, because this is one of the best in that, because not only does it teach, but it's fun. And anytime I get an opportunity, when someone says, I don't know about games for my kids, I'm like, oh, let me show you Timeline. Well, this is even better because it offers all kinds of cool things. And then you can buy all those other little smaller Timeline games as plugins to this and mix them together, and then that variety problem that might happen in the base game won't happen anymore. Fantastic. Easily one that I will see myself playing many times over the years. Timeline Challenge took Timeline, amped it up. I like it a lot. Dice Tower Judgment, my collection.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!